take that big view, you know, of the forest, and we start zooming into the trees and start applying a little more tight knowledge, we can use GPS systems and KML files and that type of thing. Some of the GPSs that I use are the Garmin Mini InReach, the Snickers Garmin, which I've been using in the military. I've got an older Vista HCX, which I loved. I took this with me to Afghanistan. Currently, I use this InReach the most. The reason I like this Garmin, this little InReach, this little Fortrex. The reason I like the Fortrex is because I can just stick it on my arm or my backpack. I can turn it on, and it's creating a pathway. And it also comes with AA batteries, so I don't have to plug it in. That way it lasts longer, and when it dies, I just swap the batteries out, so it's better for the field. Now, the reason I like that is because I can create a bunch of KML files that I import into Google Earth, or I put on another GPS or swap around or whatever, that I can either reuse later as maps that I've already done, or do a little analysis later to see where this trail intersects with that trail. That's super valuable to me. So let's look at some of that. In the Wasatch, so quite a few years ago, the Wasatch here runs north and south. You can see I've got a bunch of little start and stops. These are places that I've either been trail running or hiking or whatever. And if you look right here, and this is by Sandy, Utah, up by Alta, Brighton, Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons, there's a bunch of these little trails. Some of these trails I did with backcountry skiing, some of them I did hiking. And the reason I want to show you this is because if I take this trail right in the dead center right here, which is the Donut Falls trailhead, and I know how to get to Donut Falls, and then I hike all the way to the top, and then I create a grid coordinate to the top of the connection for this other trail, I know now how to connect these two trails. Maybe I can start at Alta, hike up the hill, go down until the end point of Donut Falls, hike to the bottom of Donut Falls, get out on the road, go all the way down, hitchhike or whatever, hike up to Lake Blanche, and then I know that there's a cut over here to get back where I started. So it's a way to do 2 or 3 or 4 little hikes on different sides of the mountains, and then come back and see exactly where that trail is and how you're going to connect it and make a loop or do something a little more, you know, a little more creative with it. Another thing that I like to do is to create my own KML file before even going out. One way that you can do that is to go to Caltopo. Now, Caltopo is a free software that you can go in and pick a location where you want to go. I don't know, maybe there's some maps already, or some trips that are already set up here. And I'm not going to do a specific how-to video because there's a ton of those out there. But in essence, you can just create a start point, create an end point. You can magnetically click it to the location you want, download it to your GPS or however you want to use it, or you can take something you've already done and upload it. That's another way to figure out where you want to go, create the waypoints, and then create a trail so that when you get out there, you've already got it pre-programmed into your little Snickers or whatever it is that you're going to do. I don't like to have a breadcrumb trail. I like to know maybe 2 or 3 general locations and then wander until I get there. I need to know where my truck is, where I parked. I need to know where I'm going, and maybe I need to know where water or fishing areas or something interesting is outside of that. I'll either use the trail to get where I'm going, or I'll just overland it to the location using topographical knowledge that's in my mind, meaning known points, roads, mountaintops, and so forth, or the GPS grid coordinate. I'll turn it on every once in a while and say the place I'm going is that distance in that direction. I will pick a tree in the farthest distance that is about that distance in that direction, and I'll wander until I get there. If I need an update, I'll check it out again. That works best for me. For some people, you're going to want breadcrumbs or waypoints where you say this is point 1 or point A, point B, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, and so forth until you get to your final location. I find that to be too much and overwhelming and restrictive, but that might be beneficial for you. A lot of people are familiar with My Documents in Google or Google Calendar, but not very many people are familiar with My Maps. I don't have anything saved in this, but I want to just let you know that it exists so you can go in and play with it. You can create new maps, you can export data from Google Earth, you can push it onto Google Earth and have a repository that you can access from your phone. I really like external GPS devices, but I'm getting to the point where the majority of the software that I actually use for GPS are going to be on my phone because I'm going to have my phone anyway, and I'm going to have a battery tank or a solar panel of some sort to keep my phone running indefinitely. But if that dies, I've already researched the location that I'm at, and I have some base knowledge so that I know all I got to do is go south until I run into this road. It's going to suck, but I'll get there, and then I'm going to handrail that back to my truck. So having said that, when it comes to apps that I like on my phone, one of them that I use a lot is MilGPS. I use this for military applications, partly because I can kind of do MGRS grid coordinates in my head because I've been doing it for years, so it's just easier for me to do in the same way that maybe someone from Europe is better at the metric system than the imperial system. So I really like MilGPS. It's something that you can use to create waypoints. I've created a couple little waypoints on here that I use for places that I teach classes or things that I want to find. So if you're a military user or you like the MGRS grid coordinate system, MilGPS, MILGPS is great. It's one of my favorites. Now for all of you hunters, I also use one called Onyx. The cool thing about Onyx is that you can get maps of whether or not this is public or private land. That's really important if you're hunting. The downside is you got to pay for it each year. I've found it to be worth it because I can create grid coordinates or locations of things that are important to me, and I can have it record and create a track of where I've been. So, and then I can share this. If someone else has Onyx, I can send them that grid coordinate and say, meet me at this location or whatever it is that I want to do. Possibly the most valuable one to me is the Garmin Maps that comes with the app for the Garmin InReach. This is the one that I used in the hunting videos. I had a lot of questions about that. If you zoom in far enough, it's got some really amazing pictures. You have to download a section before you go out, which is fine. Once you zoom out, you start getting topographical information, which is good because all you really need to know is where the big mountains are. And then you can both create waypoints of locations where you're going to camp or you want to camp or whatever, which I've done right here. And you can send text messages. The text messages require a plan that you can send through your external device. As you can see right there, those are locations that I've sent text messages. Those are locations that I've sent text messages, places that I've seen big animals. Here's one of the locations I was doing the hunting video. Right there is where I saw that moose. And I can add this and remove it however I want, but wherever I'm going to go and wherever I'm going to be out there, my phone's going to be with me. Yes, it is a thing that can fail and run out of batteries and break and all that stuff. But again, that's why I put the data in my head with Google Earth before I go out there. So if this fails, I've got a level of redundancy. And another level of redundancy in addition to the phone is the device itself. It's not going to give me mapping software, but it's going to tell me where the location of my vehicle or whatever it is that I have. I can turn it on, get a distance and direction. Realistically, what do you need more than a distance and direction? You know where you're at, you know how far you need to go, you know what direction. You can kind of just figure it out from there. Go this way around the mountain, go that way, whatever it is that you need to do. If you've got a distance and a direction back to the places you came from, you're good to go. A couple of other apps that I really like, one's called My Radar. Now, My Radar is free. I downloaded this onto my phone, and I've also added it to my watch. It's only going to work if it has data connectivity, but when you have data connectivity, you can turn on alerts for stuff like forest fires. storms that are moving in, lightning in the proximity of where you're at. And again, it's not always going to work, but when it does work, it's super valuable. As an example, right here, the forest fires that are in my current location. When I turn on the radar, it'll show you the storms and the other types of things that are coming in. And even though the data's legacy, it's going to be well, even though the data may not automatically update when you're outside of internet connectivity, it's going to have the most recent thing the last time you connected to the internet. So if you're hiking in the backcountry and you go up in the mountain and suddenly you get connectivity, it's going to update and it's going to get the most recent data, and then you go away, it's going to disappear. You can also use the Garmin InReach and get a text from NOAA, which is the National Weather Association, and it'll update here automatically. It's not as good a data. It'll give you like a 5 to 7 day forecast, but this is an actual view of current radar conditions over the top of you right now in this location. So add these two together and it's kind of a formidable ally when it comes to giving you data that is super important in letting you know whether or not you're about ready to get flash flooded or burnt with a forest fire, or even just have a storm move in and freeze you to death on top of a mountain. The last thing that I want to mention is to find some sort of a sunrise and a sunset app. I know the Garmin running watches have got those. I loved it when I used them in the backcountry. And I also have it on the main screen of my watch. Right there, Apple Watch. Yes, I know it'll only work for a few days, but I know the exact time to the minute that I have the sunset happening in my local area. And it updates each day. So if you check this thing out in the morning, if it's pre-dawn, you know when the sun's going to be up. You know you got half an hour to 45 minutes that you can hike before the sun rises. That's excellent when it comes to hunting. That's excellent when it comes to letting you know how much time you got to get out of this canyon, or how much time you've got before it's going to be black dark and you need to have your tent set up. All right, I hope these little tips and tricks were valuable to you. I know I gave you a lot of information, but I did that on purpose because this is something that's good for survival. This is something that's good for bug out. This is something that's good for hunting and backpacking. This is something that's good for overlanding. Take a combination of these data points and it'll help you make an informed decision. Okay, leave comments down below. I'll respond to them as I can. Hit that thumbs up and the like and all that other fine stuff. And thanks for watching.